Being at sea 250 days is brutal on a sailor both mentally and physically. That's how long the crew of the USS Abraham Lincoln had been at sea. Without making land, 250 days. No leave. Dwindling provisions, such as fresh food, fruits, vegetables, and most importantly, coffee. And one sailor texted his wife saying that he hoped he didn't wake up tomorrow. I want you to consider that point for a moment, because the people who sent them there told us this war would be quick, cheap, and would be over in a matter of days. Our men and women who manned those ships deserve better. I'm David Thompson, and this is Clear Signal. Please like, subscribe, and share the video. Now, the Abraham Lincoln left San Diego back in November. 5,000 sailors. The deployment was supposed to end in May. Then the war with Iran started in February, and they were redirected to the Middle East, and were there 9 months. 2 days on land. Total, 2 days. Now here's what the Navy Times and Stars and Stripes reported. The stress was overwhelming on board. Families say their sailors tried to go overboard. Family members of the sailors reported this, not the Navy, the families. One wife says her husband is now on medical hold. Now here's what the Navy has actually reported. One sailor did go overboard in early August. They recovered him by helicopter. They will not call it a suicide attempt. They say there's been no increase in reported suicidal thoughts aboard the ship. But many other legitimate sources report a different story. Now let me tell you what that means. It means you have to read between the lines. Because the same Navy that says everything's fine are also the same people confirming the conditions on the ship. Congressman Mike Lovin put it on record. Moldy showers, broken toilets, laundry down for weeks, no hot water, a meal that came down to half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas. No soap, no toothpaste. That's not a Navy. That's a breakdown. A breakdown of morale on a ship in the most powerful Navy in the world. But there's a second story they're not telling you. And this one's about your wallet. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, known as the SPR. That's America's emergency oil stockpile. The cushion that's supposed to protect you when oil prices spike. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, and I'm going to place a link in the description box to those videos. Now, here's the number. The SPR just fell below 300 million barrels. It's now at 298 million. That's the lowest it's been since January of 1983. That's 43 years ago. Now, before this war, it held about 415 million barrels. Then Iran choked off the Strait of Hormuz after this ill-advised war. And the president ordered a release of 172 million barrels, and since then has released more. Now, when that finishes draining, the reserves drop to around 243 million. But here's where the evidence gets damning. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, said this. They found that more than a quarter of the reserve isn't even drawable. They can't use it because much of it is sludge. If too much of the oil is drawn out of the salt caverns where it's stored, the salt caverns could collapse and most likely will. Analysts at Rapid Energy say about 103 million barrels are effectively unusable right now. Do the math with me. That's not an oil reserve. That's an upside-down pyramid. The number on paper says 298 million. The number you can actually pump out when the next crisis hits is far less. And that crisis is just around the corner. So let's get this straight. They drained your emergency oil reserves to fight a war they told you would be cheap and easily winnable. Now that's not bad luck. That's poor planning, bad decision making, covered up by disinformation. Now here's what they didn't tell you. The president continues to say the war is going well. We've won it at least 36 times. The job numbers are strong, although they didn't come out that well last month. That inflation is under control. Have you been to the store? But the sailors are eating half a cup of rice, and the reserve is draining toward a 40-year low, And prices are still climbing across the board in America. That's not an accident either. Just more bad decisions and a lack of understanding of how these complex systems work. Here's the theory. As I see it, when a war goes badly and the bill comes due, and it's due now, the people who started the war have two choices. Admit it and lose. Problem, Donald Trump can't admit defeat because we've won 36 times. Or they lie and hope Americans don't find out what's really going on, and they've played that card for decades. That's why I'm here. We're going to get to the truth. As always, the administration chose the second one, to lie. And the administration is very, very good at lying. That's why everything's fine is the official line coming from the White House. While 5,000 sailors sat 9 months at sea and the emergency reserves emptied out. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You're thinking, David, this is all about politics. In the big scheme of things, it's not. It's about math. You see, math doesn't care who you voted for. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve doesn't care if you're MAGA or not. The gas pump doesn't ask your party affiliation before you fill up. The system is failing you. It's failing me. And the people running it are counting on you not to add up the numbers. So what should we be watching for? Here are 3 signals. Number 1, watch the Strategic Petroleum Reserve number. If it keeps falling below 243 million, our strategic reserves are nearly empty. Watch the weekly report, it's online. And when that number stops going down, you better ask why and what they're hiding instead. Number 2, the Lincoln is returning to San Diego, finally. Now, the pressure that was put on by Navy family members and Congress forced them to recall the Abraham Lincoln. Now, the Navy is replacing the Abraham Lincoln with another aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington. Now, that ship has already been at sea for 84 days, having departed its home port of Yokosuka, Japan on March 23, 2026. Now, since they're sending another carrier there, this is a sign that there's no end in sight for this war with Iran. In that case, how long will the Navy keep the George Washington and its support ships in the Middle East? Hopefully, they've learned a lesson by now. You hope. Number 3, your fuel and grocery receipts. Don't listen to the news or the Trump administration, never the Trump administration, because I don't believe anything they say. I look at the receipts because the news will tell you inflation is fine and Donald Trump will tell you we've won the war while the reserves drain. Gas prices have been held in check, but as time moves forward, there's a good chance oil prices will spike again and send gasoline prices soaring. You should also be watching for shortages in diesel and jet fuel, which are occurring right now. Increases here will drive up anything that's transported by trucks using diesel. Airlines will begin canceling flights and dramatically increase the costs of those flights. Inflation will rise, increasing the price of food, clothing, and just about everything else people need. People like you and me. Don't believe me. Check your grocery receipt, because that grocery receipt won't lie to you. It never does. Write those 3 down. The reserve number, the ship, the receipt. That's your early warning system. So here's the verdict. They promised us a quick war, cheap and decisive. Instead, 5,000 sailors spent 9 months at sea with no hot water and half a cup of rice. There's something wrong there. The emergency oil reserve you were told would protect you is at a 43-year low, and a quarter of what's left won't be able to be pumped out. And the people who made these decisions are still telling you everything's fine. That's not leadership. That's deception using cheap survival math. Their math. At your expense and at my expense. They changed the deal on us. And the only way it changes back is if enough of us look at the receipt and refuse to look away. Make a stand. If this hits home for you, if you have a son and daughter or neighbor who served, or you just watched the price of everything climb while they told you not to worry, share this video. Because the people around you deserve to see the numbers before the next bill shows up in the mail. On a final note, it's time for America to unite against an out-of-control government bent on engaging in useless foreign wars. Don't let death and destruction be the American legacy for future generations. Tell me what this has cost your family. And please subscribe, because this is the signal the U.S. government and Donald Trump and so many others would rather you not understand. I'll see you next time. Take care.